Welcome back. This is Kimile, and you're listening to Heal with Kimile podcast. How do you know if you're getting used? How do you know if you're with someone who's just there for what they're getting from you? Oh, I've got a situation. I got a client that's going through this. And I got to say, I think maybe a mistake was made early on. He was a grieving husband, lost his wife. He's got 4 boys. And when she died, those boys and him just clung together and they survived the first year, and it was hell, but they got through it together and they were really close, really tight family. And then he meets this woman, and her name's, we're going to call her Beth. He meets Bethy, and it was fast and furious. And he was still grieving. He was in pain. I don't know if he really got through his grieving process in a year, because I think he was really needing to be there for his boys a lot. So he'd sacrifice himself for the kids to make sure they were okay. And of course, that's what you do. But I don't know if he really did his own work, and it might take longer than a year because he was married for, I think, 14 years. So he meets Bethy, and hot tamale, she's invigorating. She makes him feel alive. The passion's there. She's very affectionate. He was desperate for somebody. But was he really ready for a new marriage? That's the question. That's why I say I think the mistake might have been made early on. He needed to feel alive again, and he did. But I think it was almost like a drug when he met her, because he was just so down. And to have somebody beautiful and coming in and just wanting to spend time with him and falling in love with him, like all of that stuff was real. So, of course, wouldn't you believe in that? Wouldn't you think this is the love of my life? I'm alive again. Okay, I want more of this, right? It can feel like a drug. It really can. So within 3 months, they're married. Now, did the boys want that? Were the boys ready for that? Well, we all know the answer to that question. Obviously not. And the outside looking in goes, oh, dude, come on. It's so obvious what's happening. And I think he kind of rebounded into this relationship. I think I'll call it a rebound because it was the first relationship right after the death of his wife. And again, fast and furious, they're married in 3 months. And this person, Bethy's got some, history. She's got a little trauma. She's been divorced a few times, and she has needs, and she, doesn't have a lot of money. She wasn't working at the time. He is very successful, makes great money. So he just started taking care of her financially. She moved on in, and, she's taken care of. He's got her car. She wanted a new house. He did all of that for her. And in the meantime, these 4 boys are kind of going, no, I don't want to leave my house with mom. And no, I don't want to do all these changes and get rid of stuff and pack. And they weren't ready for this transition with a new stepmother, and they weren't ready for the transition of relocating and all that stuff. So there's been a lot of trauma, I would say, added to these boys' lives because of this relationship. Is it the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? Well, jury's still out. This is 3 years in, but all the kids have gone through some therapy and had to reorganize themselves. And now there's I think the second oldest kid, now there's some rift happening with Bethy and one of the boys. And it's because, he confronted her about, why are you really here? Do you love my dad? Like, there's been some things because she left. Yeah. She kind of just up and poof, gone one morning, did some sort of walkabout, did a therapy thing and just kind of took off for, I think it was about a month. And so dad's like abandonment triggered, oh my Lord, and was just broken down again. He was back in the grief energy with losing Bethy and his wife. So I think that was a little bit of a shock for the whole system, for all of them. And she was impulsive. She jumped, and she could feel the pressure, and they probably didn't want her there. Not so fun for her. I understand. I get both sides of it. And maybe they should have waited, a little while longer, or, lived apart and didn't really get married too quickly or whatever. Slowed that down, right? So when she bolted and left for a month and then comes back like nothing ever happened, okay, one of the boys said something like, whoa, wait a minute. And Dad, you just went through hell for a month. What are you taking her back for? Isn't this interesting? And so we have a teenager that's going off to college saying, no. You're hurting my dad, or you're going to hurt my brothers. So, he opened his mouth and said the truth. Well, now there was a point where he wasn't welcome at her house. Yet dad pays for everything. So he went off to college, another state, doing great, good athlete, got a good head on his shoulders. But this caused a problem because he confronted her about her behavior. And she, again, seems quite impulsive. So now here's Dad, my client. What do I do? What the heck do I do? I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. Well, you have a duty. You have a duty to your family, okay? The duty to the boys. And as a husband, you have a duty to your wife. But if you're going to allow somebody in the family to be thrown away because they got in a fight with your wife, that's something you probably can't allow. They've come to the point where they're not going to, attack each other's children, because she has 2 kids too. But they've come to some sort of truce about the children. But it is still interesting. And so I'm brought in to navigate the kids and her. I'm brought in to kind of help massage that, kind of get them getting along. The younger ones, I think, are a lot easier to work with, but the older one, is honest, and he called her out. So that's the one I really wanted to get them talking. So I'm doing all this work. I've got 6 or 7 hours. I'm working with the boys. I'm working with Dad. I'm talking about, Bethy and all this stuff that's going on. And I'm trying to help them understand things. And they're, they see it, they get it. And they see how they've been prickly with her and not so loving and kind. And, she has some nice things, and she is a good cook, and there's good things about her. She's not Mom, for sure, but she's at least been, when she's there, and she's fun. She's a lot of fun. And so they do enjoy certain things with her. So I'm focusing on the positive, and I'm like, look, Dad picked this. Dad wants it. Probably can't tell him to get rid of her just to make you happy. And they wouldn't want to do that anyway. They want their dad happy. So I do all this work, and I've worked with Bethy and her husband. And when the time is for her to come in to work with the kids and kind of, okay, let's kind of wrap this up and bring it together, and we're going to say sorries and move forward, I can't get her scheduled. Surprise. It wasn't all that. I believed her. I thought this was really horrible, and they really didn't like her, and it was really torturous for her to be there. So I'm working on, priming the boys, hearing what's your concerns, what all that stuff. How's the grief going with your mother? All these things these boys are going through, legitimate concerns. And they love their dad. They want their dad to be safe and not be taken advantage of. I got all the world. I can hear all of that, and I understand that. And I would think an adult woman would be able to hear that too. 50-year-old woman could hear that too. So as I try and share these concerns with these kids and stuff with her, it doesn't go so well. And I'm saying, well, let's get scheduled. I did all this work to kind of get this moment happening so you guys can come back together and kiss and make up and move forward. The dad's so excited we're going to do this. I'm telling you, I can't get her on the phone. Now I'm the problem. Now it's me. Now, and I don't personalize that. I just know that I took the bait. And here's what that means. So she doth protest too much. And she's protesting that these kids are so bad, sick, and wrong, and they're hurting her, et cetera. So I'm going to come in and save the day. I'm going to help her with them. And when the moment comes in for that to happen and things get better, she doesn't want to do it because it's not true. There's something about that that's fully not true. Either she really doesn't want to make it better because she wants to have something to complain about continually, because the guilt trips work on Dad and he pays the bills, all her bills. Or if we make this problem go away, now she's fully invested and the family gets better and they get along. She doesn't want that either. She wants to somehow be the victim. That's what I'm watching. And I don't know how to see it any other way. One of the older boys is also seeing this, and he's, looking forward to wanting to do therapy with her. She literally will not schedule. I'm not ready. I'll do therapy on my own time when I'm ready. And she's in this training that, is getting paid for by the husband, of becoming a healer, a counselor. And this is what we do, is work out relationship stuff. And so he's confronting her saying, well, I thought this is what you want to do for a living, and maybe this would be good for you to do. And she doesn't want to get better. Bottom line, she doesn't want it to get better. Because if it gets better, then something's, either going better and then she's there and fully committed and intimacy happens, like into me, you see, or she's pretending to want to be there. And as long as she can pick it, this problem, the boys are hurting me. You didn't save me. You didn't make sure I was in a safe space when you brought me into this home. Again, there's something all about her. So we will see what happens with this partnership. I do think he jumped too quickly into a marriage. Kids were not ready for that. So word to the wise. I would not rebound quickly after the death of a spouse and move in somebody. It's usually a nightmare for the kids. And then if there's some sort of conflict like there is in this situation, Bethy is just not as authentic and she's not really being straight up about her real concerns. And I do kind of think that if this man wasn't grieving and on the rebound in a way, I doubt he would have picked her. I do feel like he was down and, she was very available to him, made him feel great. And he got hooked on that feeling. And that's what he wanted to keep going. But now the feeling is, he feels like he's, a paycheck. He feels like he's a wallet because the intimacy's gone. There isn't a lot of sex. She is continuing to complain about his kids. And these kids didn't ask for her to be there. And I don't think these kids have been that horrible to her at all. I really don't. But be careful if you pick someone just to make yourself feel better. That's your choice. If you want to date them and kind of, have fun with them on the side, just don't marry them and bring them home and then expect your boys to accept her as stepmom and, put up with what she's dishing out. So this is probably going to end in a divorce. And it's interesting because I'm watching this man learn a lot about women and learn a lot about someone who's taking advantage of him because I kind of think that's what the story is here. I don't know that they're 100% compatible. I think she needed someone to help her survive, and I think he needed someone to help him feel better. And so that was, the match. That was the real need. And so as he's pulling back, realizing that her chronic complaining is kind of a racket. It's kind of like it's a persistent way of being to get her way. And it used to work. I think he really did believe her and he wanted his kids to get therapy and don't be mean to her. You be respectful to women or whatever. Like, I think he bought into that initially. When you look at your own lives and relationships, that squeaky wheel and that constant complainer and you're accommodating, you're trying to help him, especially men. They want to save and fix, make her feel safe, right? So in the beginning, I think he totally bought in. And then again, I was trying to help those boys be good to her. But now it's, just turns out that she's just kind of wanting all that drama. She needs the drama. She needs to keep the drama going. Got to keep the chaos going. Because if the action stops, if the chaos stops and the truth gets told, what is truth? What is the real truth? Is she in love? Does she want to stay there? Is this where she's supposed to be? And will that be seen and known by other people? I think a lot of people create drama to get the scent off of them. Look over here, look over there. Oh, it's that. I'm upset because of this. No, you stay upset so that you don't have to be committed. You stay upset so you can do whatever you want. And you keep guilt tripping that person. And this guy's a good guy. He's coming out of the death of his wife and he's in a lot of pain and what he woulda, coulda, shoulda, if he could have saved her, all that stuff. And so he's wounded. And I think she's utilizing that wound. I see that. Look, I see that a lot when people are on the rebound or they're struggling with something, they're trying to get over something. Somebody kind of comes around and utilizes that resulting guilt or pain or grief against you and takes advantage of you when you're weak. When people are starting over in life, I say to them, do not date. Do not put yourself out there because it's like a shark's going to smell that blood on the water and you're not on your A game and you don't want to find someone until you're on your A game. You're better than you are when you're, leveled by life. If you're getting divorced, don't start with a new relationship. It won't, again, it's not love. It's a fix. It's definitely a Band-Aid. But you have to be relationship ready is what I'll call it. And so this man and I have talked a lot about what does it mean to be relationship ready? And he looks now backward and he sees that he was rebounding. He was in pain and she was a shot of whiskey. She was a lot of fun. The sex was great. And so he married her. And he wasn't a big dater. I mean, this is someone who'd been with a wife for a long time, got a great family. When she passed away, he's like, oh, what do I do? So he jumped into a relationship too quickly. And like I said, I don't think he would have met or dated her if he wasn't in this kind of pain. So you don't want the pain to choose for you. You want your brain to choose for you. You want logic to choose for you. Is this really a good fit? And just the stuff these kids have gone through because of his choice, it's been difficult. And then he feels horrible. He's struggling with that. What does he do? And then he's, in a situation now where there's no prenup. No prenup. So if a divorce happens, which is probably likely, then he's going to be paying some money out. So again, he's already been paying money for her. He's already been paying a lot of money for her. So all of this for what, right? Is this really happily ever after? Well, so far it's not. So if you're struggling and you're alone and you're recovering from something, be alone. Don't run off and try to make yourself feel better with a new romance. Because again, who you attract to yourself is probably not who you would attract to yourself if you were on your A game. So heal, deal with yourself, process your pain, have a support system, have friends, have a place to go to deal with your trauma, but please try not to get romantically involved or marry someone straight out the gate, because it's not going to work, and it's going to cost you time, emotion, money. Other people, there's probably a lot of signs he went through. And I think a lot of people were saying, are you really ready? And how long have you known her? There were people that were inquiring, is this really a good idea? So he had people warning him. There were some red flags, and people did say things to him like, I don't know if this is a good idea yet. How do the boys feel? But he was so blind by the relief he was feeling that he couldn't say no. And again, he can have a relationship. Just don't marry it, make it permanent. There's not a solution to that pain. You're the solution to that pain. If you're grieving, if you're recovering from something, you have to tend to your own wound. That to me is him just going out and binging. Like she's a binge to him, And so a lot of fun, a lot of sex, a lot of, good times until reality sets in. And he's still got to deal with his grief. He's still got to deal with the pain of losing his wife. He's still dealing with kid issues. There really isn't any way to get away from that stuff. And so this marriage wasn't really the solution to his pain. It wasn't the solution to his problem. It's actually added more complications and more layers of difficulty in this man's life because he ran and got married too quickly. So if you're struggling with something, keep struggling and do it alone. Do it with a therapist. Do it, in your life. Get yourself in a better place for you before you latch on to somebody new. Your kids will be grateful for it. Your family will be grateful for it. And if you meet somebody and you're going through a hard time, go slow. Don't, get drunk on the feeling and high on the love and again, run out and get rings and things like that. Go slow. If it's addictive behavior or impulsive behavior, it's probably not the right choice. If you've got someone who is steady and friendly and they're no pressure, they're not trying to pressure you into anything. They're just there for you. You met maybe at a time that you're not on your A game, but they're still good people. Okay, good. Enjoy them, take time with them. But the ones that are pressure cookering you and I got to get married and if you don't love me, that's a sign that that's probably not a good idea. All right. So if any of this is resonating with you and you've got a situation or you just want to talk, or if you went through any of this stuff, share your stories. You can post it on my YouTube channel, send me a message on my Facebook page, or you can contact me for a session if you'd like on my website. It is called healwithkimile.com. That's HEAL with KIMILE.com. Thanks for listening. I love doing podcasts, and I'm so grateful that you stuck it out with me. So thanks for listening. Bye.